Bellock bomb. Bellock bomb. Bellock bomb. Big East Shootaround starts now. Thanks for starting your College Hoops Saturday with us, everybody. John Fanta coming to you from the Hoboken, New Jersey at-home studio on Big East Shootaround. We've got a three-man weave of a lineup for you today. Speaking of those Bellock bombs, we'll have Creighton senior guard Mitch Bellock coming up to talk Blue Jays. Plus, Fox College Hoops bracketologist Mike DeCourcy will stop by to break down the NCAA tournament implications across the Big East ahead of this four-game Saturday. Then we'll have Providence junior star guard David Duke, who's coming off a 31-point performance for the Friars in their overtime win over Marquette. PC back in action 1 Eastern time today on CBS at Georgetown. Let's get to the headlines. We start with those Creighton Blue Jays, who made one of the biggest statements not only in the Big East, but across the country this week with a 16-point comeback win at Seton Hall on Wednesday. Mitch Bellock, sensational, 29 points, a season high for the senior. Marcus Zagorowski pouring in 18, and Greg McDermott adjusting with a 2-3 zone defense. And that's what Creighton showed in this win. Of course, they're an offensive juggernaut, but they have the experience and the toughness of a Final Four dark horse. Now 8-3 in Big East play and in second place behind Villanova. How about St. John's? Red Storm have won 4 of their last 5. They have really come together. Their roles are defined. Posh Alexander is a Big East Freshman of the Year candidate who is playing at such a high level. 15 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals at DePaul. He is a leader beyond his years. And Vince Cole, Isaiah Moore starting to find a rhythm. They combined for 33 in that win over DePaul. Johnny's at Marquette Sunday, 3:30 Eastern time on Fox. Finally, Xavier has returned. The Musketeers are back tonight. They'll take on Butler on FS1. This Xavier team is an NCAA tournament contender, one of the surprises in the Big East. Their net is 35. Paul Scruggs, the senior, has taken the ownership and the leadership role for this team. Zach Fremantle's taken a big leap. And where did they leave off? Well, they had a huge win, folks, over Providence, coming just shy of the buzzer, courtesy of Colby Jones. This team is 10-2. They have a great win over an Oklahoma team that has wins over Texas and Kansas. Watch out for the Musketeers here as they get back in action. Let's tip things off now with the lefty sharpshooter. He can dial it up from anywhere. Creighton's Mitch Bellock. You're a senior now. You've seen a lot of different games throughout your basketball career, whether it be growing up, high school, college. Where would you put just the chaos and the drama that ensued on Wednesday night in New Jersey against Seton Hall?
I would say the Seton Hall game was probably number one of just, like, games you're not supposed to win, you know? Like, I've played in high drama games and high energy and down to the wire games where you don't know who's going to come out on top, you know? It could be a play here that wins the game. It could be a play there that wins the game. You never know. But the Seton Hall game, I mean, they were up 16, a little over 7 minutes or 8 minutes, I'm not sure. And, I mean, when you look at that, I mean, the numbers show you're probably out of it. But when you have a group that can do what we do and just stay locked in and just keep making plays for one another, and just, you always have a chance. So I'd say this one was definitely number one, chaotic-wise, based on winning the game.
When we're all watching you, the thought in mind every time you put up a shot is, that's going down. It's just part of the system of Creighton and the Bellock bombs movement, all that. And we could talk at length about all that, but you've been asked about that before. I'm curious, Mitch, because this is something that all of us viewers can't relate to. What is the feeling inside your gut when you are in that zone?
Yeah, it's incredible. I was actually talking about it with a guy over the summer I was working out with, and we related it to golf. And you know, when you hit that golf shot, I don't know if you play golf, but people who play golf, when you strike it, you know that was a good shot, and you just wait for it to land. And for me, sometimes, I mean, I'm not any good, but I like to play, and I've felt that before. It's kind of like that zone when you hit the ball and you strike the ball well. Then I kind of kind of relate it to my jump shot, just pull out the 5-iron. And when you have the 5-iron going, then you never know what can happen.
You also fish. Tell me your best fishing story.
Best fishing story. I've had a lot of incredible ones, especially with the pandemic. We had a lot more time to go do things. Probably my favorite one, just off the top, we were out fishing with Coach Lusk, and he tossed it out there first cast, and he brought in like an 11.5 or 12-pound striper bass. It was one of the most pretty fish I've ever seen. It was huge. And Marcus and I were we were like kids in a candy shop when we saw that, because it was impressive. He did his thing.
You're 8-3 now in the Big East. And we were talking before this interview about the way that college basketball is structured, right? Because you're about to turn the page to February, and you know what that end goal is. Explain the dynamic from a player's perspective of understanding the now while also keeping in mind we want to make sure we're playing our best basketball in mid-March going into April.
For sure. I think personally, the perspective is, you just want to win games. You want to win games all the time. But like you said, you want to be playing your best basketball down the stretch, going into the last few games of conference play and into the Big East tournament. And you never know what's going to happen. Any team can beat you, especially in conference play. But once you get to the tournament, then, it's a different beast, like we talked about. I've only played in it once, but, we played a good team and they were well prepared.
You're in Chicago playing DePaul Saturday night. So I ask you, is Chicago deep dish real, and are you buying it?
You're talking about deep dish pizza? It's probably real. Not for me. It's not real for me just because I'm not a big pizza guy, honestly. I know it's going to upset some people, but at the end of the day, I'm not. My sister-in-law is actually from Chicago, and her family's from here, and every time they come here, they get some deep dish pizza, and they like it. But it's just not for me. It's good, but it's just a lot. It's hard to eat. It's a lot.
What is for you?
I can't go wrong with a steak. I never really had a steak from a restaurant until we got here, but Mac. Mac likes his food and likes his steak. So I kind of got introduced to that, and Omaha has some of the best steaks in the whole country. So I'd have to switch it to steaks and potatoes and asparagus, just the normal one. But it used to be pasta and Italian food, but I like that stuff.
The potatoes at Spencer's are off the charts in Omaha, Nebraska. Spencer's and one. Yeah.
What's your favorite spot in Omaha? Spencer's?
It's so tough. I could tell you I've had many a night with Rob Anderson, though, other than the steak, at Varsity for those breadsticks.
Yep. Okay. Have you done Jay Gilbert's?
Oh yeah.
That's a good spot. Jay Gilbert's and Mahogany, really good. But they're all comparative. They all specialize in their own thing.
They all specialize in their own thing, and at the end of the day, red meat is red meat. And you and I are both very in common there. Get me a medium rare, and we're taken care of.
I gotta go medium. I'm cool with the red. I don't want it looking at me too much. I gotta go medium a little bit. But I do respect you in the medium rare with the flavor. I do respect that.
Mitch Bellock, a little bit of pink. He certainly is playing like it right now for his Creighton Blue Jays. Mitch, thanks for the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Today on Fox, third-ranked Villanova continues their fight for the top spot in the nation as they take on Mamu and rival Seton Hall. Wow! Today at 3 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
Let's head out to Indy now and talk bracketology with Fox College Hoops bracketologist Mike DeCourcy. You can find his latest projections every Monday and Friday on @CBB on Fox on Twitter. Mike, thanks for taking the time. You have 2 Big East teams in your top 16 of your current field. Villanova, as expected, on the 1 line. Creighton on the 4 line. What makes the Blue Jays a top 16 team?
Well, I think they've had a terrific year to date, with obviously lots still to go. But you look at what they've accomplished to this point, and when I'm doing the bracket, I want to know more than anything What have you accomplished against high-quality opposition? That's my number one category. I think it goes back to what's at the essence of a bracket selection for the committee, and that is these 3 points. Who did you play? Where did you play them? How did you do? That's a very simple formula, and it's a little bit complicated by the where did you play them this year, because there's not as much impact on the result in a home court situation as there used to be, and hopefully as there will be again. But I do still think there's a value to a road win. And when you look at Creighton at this point, a winning road record, and one of those losses was very narrow on the road to Kansas, a top 20 team. They have 3 quad 1 wins, only 1 loss in that category. They have a 7-3 record against quad 1 and 2 combined, which is a very important factor for me, quad 1 and quad 2 combined.
Let's turn to a game on Fox this afternoon. Seton Hall and Villanova, 3:30 Eastern time. The Pirates have had plenty of quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 opportunities. They've put together some good wins, but the idea out there is that they're 0-3 combined against Creighton and Villanova. So a lot of folks saying after a devastating loss to Creighton, is this a must-have type of game against the Wildcats? Seton Hall's on your 10 line. How do you assess the Hall?
I have noticed others who do brackets for prominent outlets have eliminated or dropped the Pirates for now. I still have a great amount of respect for what they've accomplished, and those last 2 losses. A lot of teams would have gotten those losses and maybe not put up as much of a fight. So I still think that they belong. And I would not say that this is a must-have game. I mean, if this was February 28th and not January 30th, and they were 2 games over 500 or so, then we might be saying that. There's still too much left to go. So I would say that Seton Hall at this point is really much less in need of quality than they are of quantity.
All right, we've got the last 4 in for last, which is the best for last when it comes to bracketology, because it creates the biggest debate. And among your last 4 in are Ed Cooley's Providence Friars, who were the team last year, Mike, that went from being nearly off the map, totally off the map. But I remember you told me on this very show, and people scoffed when you said it's not totally over yet. There's a long way to go. Well, here the Friars have won 2 of 3. One of those wins is at Creighton, and they're back into your field at this moment. How do you assess Ed Cooley's squad?
Those kinds of teams have sort of bounced a little bit in, out, depending on their one-loss record. The reason that's an important standard for me, John, is that the history of the NCAA tournament, there have only been 2 teams that have ever been selected as at-large teams as 2 games over 500. So I think the Friars, to this point, have done enough to be on that line. But certainly for them, they don't want to be close. They want to be in.
Follow him at TSN Mike on Twitter, at CBB on Fox for Mondays and Fridays, those bracket updates as the calendar turns to February. Mike DeCourcy, thanks again.
A real pleasure, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, you heard Mike DeCourcy bring up those Providence Friars, currently with a net of 67. The Friars with a 4-7 record combined versus quad 1 and quad 2. So they have a couple of quality wins. That road win at Creighton, huge. And no bad losses, no major blemishes on this resume. A 5-0 combined record against Quadrant 3 and Quadrant 4. Their next 5 games are outside of Q1. So for the Friars, this is an opportunity for them to rack up those wins. They're 9-7 on the year, as Mike brought up. And now at Georgetown today, it's a game you got to have. The Hoyas are a team that are on the backside of the Big East in the net rankings. So for Providence, there's certainly no gimmies because Georgetown's fought teams hard. They need to take care of business on the road, and then they have a nice window of opportunities, folks. Their next 3 after this game today, at home against Seton Hall, St. John's, and then a big one against a UConn team that's in the top 50 of the net ratings. Let's talk a little bit of Friars with their junior star, David Duke. It's great to be joined by Providence junior star guard David Duke, who's coming off a 31-point, 6-assist performance in the Friars' OT win over Marquette. David, you guys are 5-5 in Big East play to this point. How would you assess where your team's at?
Right now, I think we have a little more urgency, trying to rack up some wins here. And, this point of the season, we're usually really good. This is where we, make a jump, really block in and start to make a turn and start to, you see our growth over the year. And, I think the guys' spirits are high. We're pretty confident, playing well together.
Around Providence, a lot of Twitter followers have sent this in to us. They don't call February February. They call it Coolie Month. What do you think of that?
I think it's because, like I said, in February is where we usually start to make a big run, and they always have that saying, fries in February. Last year we had a great month of February. So I think it's just something that has been, started up one year, and every year we kind of always lived up to it. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it just kind of gives us, confidence knowing that it is a long season. By the time February comes, that's when we should, be getting better, noticeably.
Take us inside the locker room after this team had lost 3 in a row and had a bit of a gap before that game at Creighton, a hard game against a Blue Jays team that is 8-3 in the Big East thus far. What happened in between that period of time that you can share with us?
After I think our last game before that was maybe at Marquette, I think, we had a little bit of time off. And during that time, we really, try to dial into, the next game and not really dwell on, the past 3 losses. After, right after the game, everybody was kind of, just in their own head, obviously frustrated just because, that was our 3rd loss. But understanding that, we have to get out of that mindset. And I think with those few days that we had in between, that really helped us. And, understanding that it wasn't just that game we were preparing for, but that week, we would go on the road to play another 2 tough teams. So it was just our mindset, trying to get back on track. And I think, our Creighton really played together, played well. And understand we can hang with, anybody in this league. So, just having that confidence, they showed when we went to go play them.
All right, couple of things off the court for a moment. Top 3 on a pregame playlist for you right now, whether it's an artist or a song.
Top 3. One artist I would say is one of my friends, D. Gomes. He makes music, and I listen to a lot of his music. A song that I've been playing a lot lately is Coi Leray, No More Parties. And then the 3rd artist would be Lil Durk.
Last thing you watched on Netflix that you just loved?
I'm still watching Blacklist, but one thing I finished recently was Bridgerton. It's just a new series. It's really good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Bridgerton. I have to see if I can dive into that. A lot of people like it. I'll have to dive into that myself. And then finally, David, Zoom has been the thing in the last 9 months. You get to be in a Zoom room with any 3 people, anybody, any celebrities, any players, maybe in the NBA, whoever it is. Who are you picking in your Zoom room?
LeBron, Jay-Z, and Diddy. Those 3 people.
LeBron, Jay-Z, Diddy. That's a big-time list, David Duke. I love it. Wouldn't expect anything less from you. Good luck against the Georgetown Hoyas on Saturday. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I remember when she told me, she says, "Daddy, I want to go to Georgetown." I said, okay. I was taken back for a second, and then I had to put my daddy hat on. What is best for my daughter, not what's best for myself or my wife. And having a Hoya in my family, I'm proud. I couldn't be more proud of Olivia. She's earned it. I think it's one of the more prestigious schools in all of America. She loves it there. I see her growing and developing. You got to take your Providence College hat off when you're walking around their campus, because I had a lot of hate, I'll be honest. I had a lot of hate as I saw the, Hoya everywhere, and it felt weird. But again, you got to really put your selfish emotions aside and say, this is about her, not about you. I'm always going to love Providence College. That is my love of all time. But I do have a little bit of Hoya in me because my daughter is there, and I'm so proud of it. I got my check-ins for her. She doesn't know all the check-ins, but I got my spies. I can't tell her, though. When she sees this, Olivia, I got eyes everywhere.
Just some great stuff there from an all-around leader, David Duke, who's taken on that star role for the Providence Friars, and the hometown kid is a leader for Ed Cooley's team as well. They need it this afternoon at Georgetown. The Friars have won 2 of their last 3, including a big road win at Creighton. You can't have a letdown. It's an important game against the Georgetown team coming off a pause. 1 Eastern time, CBS. When I look at today, it's going to be fascinating to see 3:30 Eastern time on Fox, the rematch between Villanova and Seton Hall. These two teams meeting just under 2 weeks ago in a classic at the Finneran Pavilion. How will the Pirates respond from a devastating loss to Creighton? You have to have short memory in this league, but it comes with a tall task against Jermaine Samuels, the Big East Player of the Week, and the Cats. Then as the day goes on, 5:30 Eastern time from Hinkle Fieldhouse, Xavier and Butler. We talked a little bit ago about the Musketeers. Well, for this Butler team, they need to get back to who they are on the offensive end of the floor. They need Aaron Thompson to initiate for Miles Tate, Chuck Harris, and Jair Bolden. In the nightcap, Creighton and DePaul to complete things out as the Blue Jays look for conference win number 9. Thanks again to Mitch Bellock, David Duke, as well as Fox bracketologist Mike DeCourcy. Enjoy your Saturday of Big East Hoops, everybody. I'm going to get back to attempting some more Bellock bops. Hope you have a great weekend. Signing off for Shootaround.